Donald Trump has a plan for defending freedom of speech once he's in office. And I, for one, can't wait.
If we don't have free speech, then we just don't have a free country. It's as simple as that. If this most fundamental right is allowed to perish, then the rest of our rights and liberties will topple, just like dominoes, one by one. They'll go down. That's why today I'm announcing my plan to shatter the left-wing censorship regime and to reclaim the right to free speech for all Americans. And reclaim is a very important word in this case because they've taken it away. In recent weeks, bombshell reports have confirmed that a sinister group of deep state bureaucrats, Silicon Valley tyrants, left-wing activists, and depraved corporate news media have been conspiring to manipulate and silence the American people.
I want to point out two things. One, it's not recent. We've had proof for a very long time. But I'll forgive him for that exaggeration. And two, it's not just Americans, the entire world is under the grip of this censorship apparatus. You can see people in the UK, both banned from social media, as well as punished and even thrown in jail for speech that is lawful, but the authorities don't like. And JD Vance recently got into a tiff with the European Union, saying that if they continue to try and censor Elon Musk's Twitter, then the US may decide to rethink some support in NATO. Basically, you have government organizations, even the entire government, and large international businesses, corporations, coming together to censor everyday people. This marriage of corporation and the state was basically the definition that Benito Mussolini, the fascist ruler of Italy, where we get fascism is bad from, defined fascism as marriage of corporation and the state. And so smashing the corporation machine is going to be difficult but exceedingly beneficial worldwide.
They have collaborated to suppress vital information on everything from elections to public health. The censorship cartel must be dismantled and destroyed, and it must happen immediately.
Now, it's not just things like elections and health, even culture, media, books, movies, video games, comics, whatever it is. I believe they even invaded with their ideology things like sport and had a great deal of outcry there as well.
Here's my plan. First, within hours of my inauguration, I will sign an executive order banning any federal department or agency from colluding with any organization, business, or person to censor, limit, categorize, or impede the lawful speech of American citizens. I will then ban federal money from being used to label domestic speech as mis or disinformation. And I will begin the process of identifying and firing every federal bureaucrat who has engaged in domestic censorship, directly or indirectly, whether they are the Department of Homeland Security, the Department of Health, Human Services, the FBI, the DOJ, no matter who they are. Second,
now, we know that these guys have been involved. I'm talking about three other agencies and other federal organizations. We know they have been involved in censorship because when Musk bought Twitter, he published the Twitter files, basically showing that it happened. I also think it's very important to note that just like when Brazil tried to force Elon Musk to censor things that were not illegal, and pretend that the censorship came from him and he had a big fight with them. And just like now, what I was talking about with the European Union trying to censor, when one country makes the law that you have to censor, you usually get the same censorship everywhere. Not necessarily. I know that Twitter can do censorship by country. Basically, they adhere to the local laws. But especially when you're talking about big blocks like the European Union or the US, if there's a law there that enforces censorship or bans it, hopefully, then it will be quickly rolled out everywhere else unless there is a very strong opposition from the holders of the ownership of the company, like Elon Musk has against censorship. Basically, he only censors what he must in order to stay within the boundaries of the law. And supposedly, if let's say Mark Zuckerberg decides to censor as much as is legal, he might only uncensor the US and leave the rest of the world censored. However, if he doesn't feel, compelled to follow censorship to the letter, then he may just dispense with the headache of having two versions of the website and just allow everyone unfiltered speech, which would be very good.
And I will order the Department of Justice to investigate all parties involved in the new online censorship regime, which is absolutely destructive and terrible, and to aggressively prosecute any and all crimes identified. These include possible violations of federal civil rights law, campaign finance laws, federal election law, securities law, and antitrust laws, the Hatch Act, and a host of other potential criminal, civil, regulatory, and constitutional offenses.
For example, supposing you had someone running for president of the United States, and his son was involved in some shady dealings, and then social media decided to censor it, even though it's true and they know it's true. Then after that the guy gets elected, the stories about his son are actually confirmed, and everyone can talk about them, because the election is already over. And then let's say 1 in 10 people, enough to have turned the results of the election upside down, say that if they knew before voting about the shady dealings of the son, then they would have voted otherwise. Supposing that sort of thing happened, would that be against the law in the United States, like it's election interference by social media? Do you think so? I'm just wondering.
To assist in these efforts, I am urging House Republicans to immediately send preservation letters, and we have to do this right now, to the Biden administration, the Biden campaign, and every Silicon Valley tech giant, ordering them not to destroy evidence of censorship. Third, upon my inauguration as president, I will ask Congress to send a bill to my desk revising Section 230 to get big online platforms out of censorship business. From now on, digital platforms should only qualify for immunity protection under Section 230 if they meet high standards of neutrality, transparency, fairness, and non-discrimination.
Now, this is interesting. Section 230 is basically what allows social media to operate. Usually, if you, let's say, have a newspaper and you publish something, you are held liable for whatever you published, meaning you are editorializing, right? You are deciding whether what is said should or should not be published. Therefore, you should have the duty to confirm that it's true, or at least true as far as you can tell, right? And social media doesn't have to follow that rule. They're essentially the same as, let's say, a venue like a mall. If you meet a random person there and you say something and it's libel or slander, the mall owner does not actually get to be held liable in court for it. You can't sue them. It's just a public venue for you to speak. It's not endorsing you, it's not editorializing, it's not verifying what you're saying and deciding whether it's standing behind your speech or not. It's just a place that you get to exchange ideas on. The same thing was thought to be the case with social media, that it's just a platform for people to exchange ideas, to speak out, and it should not be held liable for anything that is published in there. However, since then they have decided to editorialize, to ban and censor people based on things that are beyond just lawful or unlawful speech. Right? If you incite to violence or publish inappropriate kid stuff, then obviously you are doing stuff against the law and you should be punished. You shouldn't be there. You shouldn't be allowed to post that there. However, beyond that, let's say that you have an unpopular opinion, or not even unpopular, right? Supposing the majority of people agree with you, but the people in power don't, about elections or health matters or LGBT community or illegal migration or anything of the sort. you can still be punished, suspended, blacklisted, shadow banned, or outright banned completely for what you've said, and that could be censored. The very thing you posted could be censored on top. Hillary Clinton is saying that we should be, in my view, repealing something called Section 230, which gave platforms on the internet immunity because they were thought to be just pass-throughs, that they shouldn't be judged for the content that is posted. Whether it's Facebook or Twitter or X or Instagram or TikTok, whatever they are, if they don't moderate and monitor the content, we lose total control. And it's not just the social and psychological effects, it's real harm, it's child inappropriate stuff and threats of violence, things that are terribly dangerous. Now, she's lying. Child inappropriate stuff and threats of violence are not allowed, they're illegal, they would be banned even under the new terms that Trump is promising to dictate. However, what she's saying about total control, I believe her. She wants monitoring and she wants content moderation in order for the Democrats, the left wing, the establishment, the Uniparty, to have total control over what you can and cannot say, think, and do. And this is the absolute opposite of the spirit of Section 230, which was, like I said, to give them immunity in order to become a public space for you to discourse with your fellow citizens and with other people around the world. And Trump is going to restore the original spirit of Section 230 by banning these platforms from interfering with your speech and with you hearing the speech of others, so long as that speech is legal. This is excellent news for anyone who believes in truth and in every person's right and ability to listen to others' words themselves and make up their own mind. Do your own research. You are an adult. You are responsible and capable enough to listen to opposing views and make up your mind. You don't need Mommy Hillary to curtail your speech or others in order to make you safe on the internet. Hearing someone disagree with you is not going to harm you. It's not going to bring real-world harm. Even if someone is speaking against migrants, it's not going to cause everybody to turn into a zombie horde and attack migrants indiscriminately. It might affect government policy if the majority agrees with them, as it should in a democracy. A democracy doesn't mean that what you think is best happens every time. It means that the will of the people, the majority, is enacted. And if you curtail speech in order to create an artificial majority, you have destroyed the spirit of democracy.
We should require these platforms to increase their efforts to take down unlawful content such as child exploitation and promoting terrorism, while dramatically curtailing their power to arbitrarily restrict lawful speech. Fourth, we need to break up the entire toxic censorship industry that has arisen under the false guise of tackling so-called mis- and disinformation. The federal government should immediately stop funding all nonprofits and academic programs that support this authoritarian project. If any U.S. university is discovered to have engaged in censorship activities or election interferences in the past, such as flagging social media content for removal of blacklisting, those universities should lose federal research dollars and federal student loan support for a period of 5 years and maybe more. We should also enact new laws laying out clear criminal penalties for federal bureaucrats who partner with private entities to do an end run around the Constitution and deprive Americans of their First, Fourth, and Fifth Amendment rights. In other words, deprive them of their vote. And once you lose those elections, and once you lose your borders like we have, you no longer have a country.
I'm going to point out here that it's more than just the big things like elections and health. The very culture itself is impacted greatly. All over the world, we see censorship. Let's be honest, Western media is dead. Nobody watches, nobody plays, nobody listens, nobody wants to. Everyone has moved on to Asian media because it's not filled with far-left lunatic politics, and it is currently under heavy assault from the censorship apparatus to change and conform. And if it does, we'll just abandon that as well. Nobody, or rather very few people, preferred the Asian mediums. It's just that we abhor wokeness and the anti-human message it is shoehorning into everything, and wherever it goes, we will leave. We will not consume it. We will not accept it at any cost. This is definitely a hill to die on. So, what Trump is saying is important. It's the big things, but they sort of go, oh, how is it politics is downstream from culture? There's a certain amount of truth to it. Hopefully, this will also impact in reverse, with culture being impacted by the change in politics, by the change in the flow of money from backing censorship to opposing it. It's going to be a big change.
Furthermore, to confront the problems of major platforms being infiltrated by legions of former deep staters and intelligence officials, there should be a 7-year cooling off period before any employee of the FBI, CIA, NSA, DNI, DHS, or DOD is allowed to take a job at a company possessing vast quantities of US user data.
Now, we know that they've done this because of Twitter files. Like I said, Elon Musk published all of the information. Essentially, you had like FBI and CIA agents, former ones, of course, working in Twitter as go-betweens, essentially handing down orders to censor speech that the current regime did not like through the three-letter agencies.
Fifth, the time has finally come for Congress to pass a digital Bill of Rights. This should include a right to digital due process. In other words, government officials should need a court order to take down online content, not send information requests such as the FBI was sending to Twitter. Furthermore, when users of big online platforms have their content or accounts removed, throttled, shadow banned, or otherwise restricted, no matter what name they use, they should have the right to be informed that it's happening, the right to a specific explanation of the reason why, and the right to a timely appeal.
Now, this is a dream. To be told exactly what you are and are not allowed to say, to be given the specific reason for why your content is removed, and the ability to appeal this, hopefully to a third party, because letting these social media platforms adjudicate themselves, well, they find themselves not guilty of anything strange. They find themselves to have done everything properly and you to have been banned or restricted fairly. Amazing. The idea that you need to be told if you're being shadow banned is going to completely remove the usefulness of the tool. The whole point of shadow banning is to silently remove you from the discourse, with neither you nor anyone else realizing that you are not irrelevant, that people are not turning away from the opinions that you are spouting, but rather that it's all artificial by the social media platform. The idea behind shadow banning is to avoid the public outcry from publicly banning that person, because it would be a controversial decision, and or to demoralize the person into thinking that their opinion is extreme and rejected by the mainstream, by the majority of people, specifically, not the mainstream media, which is worthless. So by forcing social media platforms to notify you of any action that they take against you, and by forcing them to be clear and transparent with the reasons they take for censorship, because right now in platforms like Twitch, for example, if you are friendly with the moderators, if you're on the right side of politics in their minds, then you are untouchable. At worst, you'll get a slap on the wrist for blatantly disregarding the rules of the platform. Meanwhile, if you have the wrong type of politics, for any reason at all, you can be banned, and for no reason at all as well, if you are if you caught the ire of the moderators. If this changes, the entire discourse on the internet will change, and in my opinion, it will ripple to every aspect of society. You can't solve problems that you can't even discuss. First, you have to identify a problem, then you talk it through with the other relevant people, come up with a solution and then you implement it. If you cannot discuss it with anyone else, you'll never actually reach a consensus. You will never be able to adopt any solution. By changing what you are and are not allowed to say, they're almost trying to change what you think. Essentially, they are trying to change the collective thought process. They are undermining democracy in the truest sense of the word. And by removing these restrictions, a lot of problems that were mystifying and unsolvable for decades may well no longer be so. People will be able to point out the obvious source of these problems that was simply not politically correct to discuss, and then advocate for solutions that would actually solve it instead of crying about the symptoms of it and blaming, well, the usual suspects: the racism, sexism, homophobia, transphobia, Islamophobia, and all the rest of the speech that Hillary Clinton gave that time. You know what I mean.
In addition, all users over the age of 18 should have the right to opt out of content moderation and curation entirely and receive an unmanipulated stream of information if they so choose. The fight for free speech is a matter of victory or death for America and for the survival of Western civilization itself. When I am president, this whole rotten system of censorship and information control will be ripped out of the system at large. There won't be anything left. By restoring free speech, we'll begin to reclaim our democracy and save our nation. Thank you, and God bless America.
Well, there you have it. I, for one, am very excited to see this unfold. Elon Musk approved of it. RFK Jr. Says that this earns Trump a space on Mount Rushmore. You have people like Roseanne Barr saying that he's already the greatest president of all time. People are very happy with the declared plans of Trump in his second term, at least the people who backed him. Honestly, I am not sure if this actually answers the fears that the left has. They were basically talking about Trump deporting poor people like homeless people, or putting them in camps, and people of color, and taking away rights from women. I don't think I've heard them saying he will let people say what they think online. That's a major fear and reason to oppose him. But maybe I'm just out of touch with the liberal left-wing base. There's nothing liberal about the left today. It's so funny they still cling to the mantle of liberalism when, liberalism is freedom, right? The freedom to say what you think? No, that's not it. The freedom to live your life with less government interference? No, that's not it either. The freedom to obey large corporations and their masters and their corrupt bureaucrats? I guess that's pretty much it, right? That kind of liberalism is what we have. Well, for now. Hopefully it will change soon enough. Thanks for watching, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.